Hey, so I know this was supposed to be out yesterday, ideally, but this week's been kind of a crapshoot. We started off the week losing Kobe and his daughter, and then yesterday, epilepsy decided to kick my ass and was like, "Oh, you're not going to deal with anybody." So I didn't, but I'm doing it today. So the thing I want to talk about in this one is being labeled as disabled. I put out a poll a couple days ago asking how many people don't like that term, how many people, like, why it bugs them. And it was about 60-40. 60% of people don't mind it, about 40% of people can't stand it. And I just want to talk about, not targeting those people that, don't like it, but also kind of adding to that. I hated it for a while. I was like, I went from perfectly healthy to now I have epilepsy and I have this diagnosis. And it took a while to come to terms with that being called disabled is not a negative thing. It has a lot of, negative connotation because of the way society portrays it and, coddles people with disabilities, I would say. But it's not a bad thing. By definition, being disabled means you have a condition, be it mentally or physically, that limits you or restricts you from doing certain activities. Nowhere in that definition does that say you are less of a person. Does it say you cannot do things? Does it say because you are disabled, you are in a different subsect of society? It just means you need accommodations. And unfortunately, for those of us that don't want to come to terms with it, we are disabled. It's kind of one of those things where we want acceptance, just like everyone else out there, say it be with like autism or, Parkinson's or something like that. But guess what? They're disabled too. So if we want to get the same respect and awareness that they get for being disabled, we need to come to terms with the fact that we are disabled too. And it's not a bad thing. I need accommodations in everyday life for my epilepsy. That's all it means. And the reason I get them is because I'm disabled. And when you can't work, you go on disability because you're disabled. So it's not a bad thing. I think a lot of people have gotten, this mindset that, oh, I'm disabled, everyone's going to view me differently. And, there are the idiots out there that, view you differently, but they're not just targeting you. They think, they're better than everyone else because they don't have to, have special accommodations. But at any moment in their life, they can become disabled. And again, it's not a bad thing. Being disabled just means you get accommodations to be able to do the things that people without disabilities get on a regular basis and, honestly take for granted. So, for those that it bothers or aren't, wanting to accept it yet, I get it. I really do. But it's kind of one of those things, like, if we're going to want the same type of recognition, acceptance and support, like other disabilities that we talk about all the time, then we need to, come to terms with the fact that we are in that list as well. We are disabled. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's a bit of a reality shock to go from, being completely healthy or considered being completely healthy to go to being like, oh, shit, I might need a placard when I park, or I might need someone to drive me around, or, yada, yada. But, like I said, I fully embrace it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to ask for accommodations everywhere because I can. Because, I go through so much crap on a daily with my epilepsy that, let's say, quote unquote, that the regular everyday person doesn't go through. that, I feel like I'm owed it. I'm deserving of it at this point. I used it when I went to the Caribbean. I boarded the plane before everybody else with my friends and her family, and people, definitely looked at me, but at the same time, I'm like, invisible disability, like invisible. So get over it, and my mom drives me, or my brother, my boyfriend drives me everywhere. And I'm honestly looking into getting a handicap placard because it's more convenient. I don't want to walk that far on concrete. If I have a seizure, they're going my teeth again, and they're very expensive. And I don't want to deal with the stress of getting on a plane with screaming children and everybody else, and be overwhelmed, have anxiety, have a seizure. I'm gonna ask if I can go first, and it's not a bad thing. Like, you get accommodations at school if you need them, and the only way people are gonna know that you need them is if you tell them. You can't just be like, oh, I have epilepsy, and they're like, okay, cool, we'll make an accommodation. Like, you need to explain what goes on with your disability and why you need them sometimes. Like, they don't know that, having an exam due might stress you out so much that you had a seizure and you'll need extra time. So, not everybody gets those accommodations because they're quote unquote the regular norm. So it does have its benefits, and I just want you to, take that into consideration because it's not a bad thing. It really isn't. It's just a stupid label, but unfortunately, we need to embrace that stupid label because it does benefit us in the end. So I just wanted to go over that because it's a lot more mental of something that you need to embrace than it is anything else. You just need to accept it and realize that, I am disabled or differently abled than, the rest of people I know possibly, but that's okay. I can still live my life, and having that label of being disabled gives me the opportunity to, because that way I get accommodations. So I just wanted to talk about that because I did get a percentage of people telling me that they feel like people pigeonhole them into some part of society or, treat them like children because of their disability. And, that sucks, and that's their stupidity, not yours. But, you really do get benefits from embracing your disability, I promise. So I just wanted to talk about that, and if you have anything to add to it, just, go ahead and drop it, or your opinions or disagreements. I don't care. Everyone has different opinions. So, yeah, I will talk to you guys next week.